Hi there, welcome to Hey Sound Guy, a podcast where I'll be peeking behind the curtains of the wonderful world of music. Each week I'll be speaking to sound engineers, music industry professionals and musicians and share some fun stories from the road. My next guest is a good friend of mine. I've known him for quite a long time. As you'll hear, he's a fantastic bass player with Blues Explosion. Before that it was the Blues Experience. Just an all-round fantastic guy, really good friend, good producer, teacher, everything, just a wonderful person. Please welcome my good friend, Nick Cohen. I'm going to get started now. Welcome, Nick Cohen.
Are you getting that?
Yeah, definitely getting that.
Welcome, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I've been wanting to ask you for a while.
Yeah, we talked about it right at the beginning of lockdown, I think.
Yeah, and then, well, I mean, me as well, I kind of had my head stuck in my ass, I think, trying to do other things, and just...
It's still been a crazy time, you know.
It has been a crazy time.
Yeah.
So, how I like to start is if you could introduce yourself and tell us what it is that you do.
Okay, I'm Nick Cohen.
Yeah.
I guess I know you as a bass player. That's kind of my main thing, has been for a number of years, playing bass, touring the world, and a bit of band leading and mostly session work. But yeah, that's kind of it really. Do a bit of some teaching work as well, which I really enjoy, and yeah.
You got the studio as well, don't you? So you know. Do quite a few things there.
Yeah, I mean, I've got studio space. I'm involved in sort of writing work, a bit of production work, and all music related, various strands.
That's great, man.
Yeah,
you know variety within your sector. That's
I think it's necessary. And
absolutely.
I like kind of delving into different aspects of it as well. I wouldn't want to be just doing one thing all the time.
It could get boring quite quickly.
Yeah, it kind of works out because, you know, it's like I'll have an intense period where you're in your studio for a while, and then you kind of like get to that point, you think, yeah, I've had enough of this, and then some gigs will come in and you go out on the road for a while. But equally, if you're out on the road all the time, you don't want to be, you know, it's quite nice to be back and get back in the studio. So
yeah, man, 100%.
Yeah.
So when did you start playing the bass, or was the bass your first instrument?
I guess like a lot of people, I started on recorder and piano at school, primary school. And my dad, being a sort of keen amateur guitarist, sort of showed me sort of a few basic chords on the guitar. So those are my starting things. I think I did a bit of clarinet for a while, but that didn't last long. And then
the misery stick gave you too much misery.
Absolutely. And then, I kind of started on the bass a little bit. My dad had a friend, or he had two friends that used to come around and they used to jam just guitars, and I wanted to sort of join in, and my dad said, well, rather than sort of clattering around on the desk sort of doing beats, he said, why don't we get you a bass, and then I can join in with them. Yeah. So he built me my first acoustic bass, which I still have.
Nice.
And I think that was around about age 13, 14, something like that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So you've been in it ever since.
Yeah, you know, joined the school band, you know, the usual route kind of thing.
Great.
Yeah, it's great.
Did fun. You have any sort of formal education in high school or ever?
Not in music.
No.
Okay. No.
Right.
The bedroom school of music.
Perfect, man.
You know, I used to go around to Tony Remy's house. Because he's someone I've known since about the age of 14, and he had a stereo, you know, a turntable. We didn't have that at my house, and so he had all these great albums, and I used to go around there and just play music all day, listen to these, and he very kindly sort of made me cassette tapes, which I could then go home and play, and that was my learning, you know.
The famous mixtapes we all had.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Yeah. You know,
Lord.
but that was my education, listening to the radio, listening to records. There was obviously no YouTube, and videos were pretty scarce and pretty expensive. So it's just listening. I did 1 year at the Guildhall School of Music, which was their sort of postgrad diploma course, even though I wasn't a graduate, but I did this diploma course. that's the kind of nearest I got to any formal education, but not really.
Cool. Well, I mean, it's knowing you and knowing you're playing. You've got such a great feel and such a great groove. I think learning the way that you did might have been sort of instrumental in that, because you had to rely on your ears solely.
Yeah.
And you had to work it out and feel it without anybody going like, tut, 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 not like that. You got to play a triplet. Oh, hold on, wait.
Absolutely.
Let me play this my way.
Absolutely. I think there's a lot to be said for learning that way. It takes longer. It's a harder route because, it just takes longer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there are flaws in formal education. I've met people from some of these establishments, and I've been actually sort of shocked, like actually how little sort of musical sense they actually have. They might have knowledge and ability and technique, but not actual musicality. And there's a lot you can't teach. And I think finding your own route through will also give you an individuality that you can't get anywhere else. A lot of these establishments, people are coming out there, they're churning them out. They all sound the same.
It's like photocopies, right?
Yeah.
100%. And they get they've got the formula, the paint by numbers formula. Rock song is like this, and this solo is going to be like this. And
totally.
I agree with you. For me, playing the guitar, also I'm self-taught, and I kind of found in the very beginning, when it was just me and my guitar, and learning, and through listening and learning through watching my friends play, and then going home and trying it on my own.
That's it.
And starting to write little riffs here and there.
That's it.
I felt so much more free.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah.
And as I sort of progressed, about 2 years down the line, I came here and met my best friend, he's a classically trained pianist, but then he picked up the guitar, and he's one of those people who's just really, really good.
Right.
Musically, he's anyway. So we sort of played together, and as you do, you talk about and these, and it's like, so maybe you should try this and learn this and this, because he knows all about the sort of classical bit. And the more and more theory I learned, the more I felt restricted. Yeah. Because I kept thinking, I would write something like, wait, stop. You can't do that because that's not in the right scale,
terrible.
Or this interval is too big, and
nonsense.
It really held me back for a long time, and I was like, okay. I felt that my creativity was sort of smothered a little bit, but I kept going with it because I knew that at some stage I can then match what I'm hearing in my head or my ideas with the theory, sort of effortlessly. Yeah. But it never really got there. I think just having a strict sort of routine of practicing scales, modes, all these things, it became so much, because the more you learn, you're like, but there's this thing that I got to learn, and now there's this thing, and it became this technical exercise that I had to do. And it kind of put me off playing for a while.
Don't blame you. It's funny when you said a minute ago about the tut tut. It's like that's how music is taught in so many institutions and traditionally, and it's just wrong. Music. No one, whether they're 7 years old or 70 years old, is going to sort of get any joy from learning if it's all about that's wrong, do it like this, not like that. Put your hand here, it's like, no, that's not the way to teach. Because you're only going to learn if you've got enthusiasm for it. And 100%. If it's constantly been told that's wrong, do it like it's like, and
you lack the positive reinforcement sometimes.
And especially for kids, if you sit down, I remember sitting at a piano doing sort of two-handed sort of scales, thinking, what's this? Why am I doing this? There's no connection. You've got to connect to the music. I do a lot of work. I've been teaching bass at a school in South London called the World Heartbeat Music Academy. It's an independent school. They're not part of the state system, and it's run by a woman who's brilliant. She's got a fantastic approach to music. There's no curriculum there. I'm not a qualified teacher, but I teach there, and it's very much about just getting kids hands-on. Put an instrument, they walk in, put an instrument in their hands, and within a day they're playing it, and she'll have them performing, even if they just play one note. It's like join in, play, and you know, and kids love it.
There's no equivalent to playing with others.
The kids respond so well to it. They love it. You know, that they put so much time into it. They can't wait to come there after school and get stuck in. And the older kids, she leaves the keys with them and just says, you know, you carry on, lock up when you're finished, and they stay there till 2:00 in the morning.
That's great, man.
Because they just love playing music. It's a perfect learning environment.
And also, I suppose, teaches them a little sense of responsibility.
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
got the keys to the school.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I mean, playing with other people, I think, is essential.
Yeah.
Because you can only get so far on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the was it? I'm trying to think. Was it Miles Davis who said? No, it wasn't him. It was somebody else who said, "Always be the worst." Is it?
Yes. I know
always be the worst player in the band.
Yeah.
Or that wasn't Miles Davis. That was somebody else.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true, because if you're in that company where, you know, you're around people that you feel are better than you, it's like you really feel like I have to step up now. You know, I have to really kind of get my game on and just kind of, you know,
get involved.
Yeah, you know, and I also love Victor Wooten's sort of whole theory on it. He's a great educator. You know, he's all about, you know, music as a language. He was playing since the age of like 2 years old or something. He's got his older brothers that just stuck this instrument in his hand, and there was none of this kind of coaching or tuition. They just let him be, just doing his thing. My lord,
they played at Ronnie's very shortly before the lockdown started.
I saw it, yeah. Amazing.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
right. I mean, if you're not, I think it's more, that's definitely music for musicians, right? And the performance, maybe if you listen to the record, it's a different thing, you know, when the songs are played. But seeing them perform and the whole thing, it's very, very nerdy, very geeky, it's amazing. It's fantastic. Yeah. But it's, you know, it's like going to see, do you know Guthrie Govan? Right. It's like going to see this guy because it's another level. You're like, this is unattainable. Sure. He was another one who started playing when he was like 2 or 3, you know. I watched an interview with him and he said, like, I still don't know how to ride a bike. Yeah. But, sure. You know, I was playing guitar. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think, you know, there is this culture, unfortunately, of, you know, you look on YouTube and you look up, you know, drummers and bass players. I mean, it's like a circus, you know, and the emphasis is completely wrong, I think. You know, they're not playing music. They're just showboating. Yeah, just wanking, man. So much of it, and it's really frustrating. And that's why I say, you know, Victor Wooten has got all those skills, but you know, he knows the priorities, what his priorities are. The priority is the song. Yeah. And it's about music, you know, and like I say, as an educator, he's got such cool ideas, you know, he's really switched on. Yeah. You know, and I think... Does he do online training and stuff? I think he's actually got a sort of camp that people, well, I don't know if they go there anymore, but I think it's in Virginia or something. And so people would go there and they sort of do courses and stuff. Base camp. Yeah. Brilliant. I don't know if he does online as well. I'm not really sure, but... Yeah, he's got some wisdom going on, definitely. Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah. So playing with Tony, must have been a fun thing to grow together. Yeah. Definitely. I'm thinking I'm in talks with him. We'll see how that goes. And then we'll get his side of the story. Yeah. So did you guys form a band? Was that Blues Explosion version 1? Back in the day. What sort of inspirations? Who are your inspirations as bass players, as musicians? Yeah, I mean, we kind of like, as I say, we met. I was 14 at the time, and we met actually through a drama workshop that was being held by my neighbour, and there were myself and Tony and 2 other guys that we met, and it was like, oh, you're a drummer, you're a keyboard player. Tony's a guitarist, I play bass. Oh, cool. You know, we got a band. Yeah. Brilliant.
And then we, the keyboard player's parents were also musicians, so they were really supportive, and so we used to go to his house every Sunday,
Just
put the bed up against the wall, put all the instruments out, and just jam all day, like literally all day without any breaks. We're just so keen to play music.
Yeah, those are the days.
Yeah. And you know, again, he had a record player in his room, and so I put on this vinyl and stuff like that, and we'd listen to the tune and say, yeah, let's play this, you know, this is cool,
let's learn it.
Yeah. You know,
that's great, man.
And I remember one of the early ones was like Miles Davis on Green Dolphin Street when on the turntable. Okay, so you know, the drums do this thing on the ride cymbal, you know, next, so you're going to do a walking bass. I was like, great, yeah, great. What's a walking bass?
Yeah. My bass doesn't have any legs, mate. Where's it going to go?
But you know, it's this kind of innocence of youth, and it's just like, but that was a brilliant learning ground, because, and then we got a gig. We managed to get a residency at some wine bar in Finsbury Park.
Oh wow!
And then we got another residency at this restaurant in Hampstead. I mean, they were paying us like nothing, so of course they were happy to have us there, because we'd play forever. We played the longest. There was none of this kind of like, yeah, we've done 45 minutes now. Let's, you know.
Yeah, where's my dinner?
Yeah, I mean, we just used to play all night.
Yeah.
Until like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Brilliant.
And still want to carry on, you know.
Yeah, they're like, okay, guys, there's nobody in here, and I haven't been for a few hours. Yeah. Can you stop now? I want to go home.
So we do that on a Friday, and then he extended to Friday and Saturday, and then we'd rehearse all day Sunday again.
Brilliant.
We were just so dead keen, you know.
That's great, man. Yeah, and then Monday you go to school, and you're like, man, what a weekend we've had.
Yeah.
That's great.
But the influences were wide and varied, and it all came, I guess, well, through this keyboard player, we were he was introducing us to all this sort of jazz stuff, and Earth, Wind and Fire was a big one of his favourites. So it's all sort of jazz, funk and stuff like that. But earlier influences, I guess, came from, you know, with my parents. I grew up listening to sort of rock and sort of 60s kind of Beatles, Stones, and all that kind of stuff. So it's all in there, you know. And then when I got to my secondary school, there was big influence of sort of reggae and soul, funk and stuff like that. Yeah. So a
lot of Cream as well.
Yeah. And
then you got to play with old Jack Bruce.
Yeah, that was truly an honour. I mean, that was amazing. He, you know, as you know, he came and he did one night at Ronnie's, and
I was there.
Yeah, and then a year later he did a run of 3 nights, and then he hired us Job Lot to be his band, and that was fantastic. You know, and that was kind of full circle, as you said. When I was 14, I remember listening to Cream songs and learning a couple of things because my dad was into Cream, and then to sort of play with him years later was amazing.
It's surreal, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you get to meet somebody that you like, growing up, you idolize a person, or you know. Yeah. I mean, it was for me. It was even more so because a lot of my heroes, I suppose, were either English or American people, and coming from the arse end of the world, where, you know, I didn't grow up with money, so I never thought that I would leave the country, you know, or have the opportunity to do so, you know, and then getting to meet people who were heroes of mine growing up. It's such a weird and surreal experience.
And you've been around all of them, every one of them, man. That's great.
Yeah, no, I've been very fortunate. You know, this gig is a good one.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I was never into jazz.
Right.
I think maybe I just had a misrepresentation of what jazz was in my head, because for me jazz was contemporary jazz and free jazz, and, you know, people playing 3 different songs at the same time. For me, I'm still having a really hard time getting with free jazz and all those things.
It can be a bit of a headache at times.
But you know, I fell into working in jazz quite by accident, if you will. Right. You know, I when I was studying, there was the chance of a choice. One of the choice modules, or one of the options, was work experience. Nobody wanted to do that, so I went to my teacher. I said, "Listen, man, if you've got anything, send it my way. I'll do it off books. It doesn't matter. I need to get involved in the industry, because this is the only way we're going to get involved."
Yeah.
And then he got me a gig with the National Youth Jazz Orchestra, like the next week. And I mean, I went and I did the gig. I met Tim, Tim Bray.
Yeah.
He was feeling under the weather. He asked if I could do the gig. I did it. He was happy. Bill Ashton was happy, Miles's dad.
Yeah.
And they basically hired me straight away, and I started doing gigs for the National Youth Jazz Orchestra.
Wow, brilliant.
For the last 6 months that I was studying. And then, I lied. I finished in April, so it was about 4 months. And then, as I was sort of finishing up, Bill gave me a call. He was like, go and meet Miles at Ronnie Scott's on Monday. Have a chat. They might need somebody.
Oh, wow.
So I had to Google Ronnie Scott's. I didn't know where it was or what it was.
I think that's the famous jazz club in the world.
I got there, and he was there setting up, and they were like, "Oh, do you know the LS9 desk?" I'm like, "Well, not really, but I can work it out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not scared to get my hands dirty."
Yeah, great.
And they're like, okay, so go upstairs and have a little look, have a little play, take your time, do whatever you want, and then come back on Friday. We got a gig for you.
Wow.
And I went and I did the salsa gig, which was back in the day. It was a 12-piece salsa band with everything and everyone.
Exactly, that's not easy.
And no sound check.
Wow. Yeah.
They just turn up at like 9 o'clock, set them up, and there you go. So that was trial by fire.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But I must have done something right because I'm still there.
Yeah.
Well, I hope.
And that was when?
Again. This is 2008, May 2008.
Oh, okay.
So it's been a little while.
Great.
Which is and then I met you guys soon after. It was about 2010. You guys started playing at Ronnie Scott's. 2009. Because at first it was the
it's
Blues
been 12 years
Experience.
Now. It was, yes, yeah.
Were you part of the Blues Experience?
Yeah, I was there from day one. And I think it's been 12 years.
With Sam Grimley and those guys. And you guys had a manager I did not get on with and gladly got rid of him.
He wasn't the manager. He was like the sort of third-party promoter. He was, I think, it was his idea to sort of bring it to Ronnie's, and he kind of managed the project.
So he did one good thing.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
No, I mean, it was. I suppose he was just being a manager. Yeah,
it was a shame. I mean, he's not a bad guy, but it just kind of just didn't work out, and and then the band had gained some momentum, and so I guess he maybe became a bit superfluous. I don't know, but so he's not a bad guy though.
No, I don't think he's a bad guy. Like I said, he was probably just being a manager, and me being a sound engineer. Yeah. Running around trying to set up a gig, and he's like, "Oh, can I get a couple of coffees?" Yeah. If I offer this to you guys, because I love you guys, we're friends, we know each other a long time. If I've got something to do, I do that. Yeah. But if I've got 5 minutes and I'm going to make myself a coffee, I'll offer it out. That's not a problem. But if I've got an amp in this hand and a bunch of cables in this hand, and you're like, can I get 6 coffees for the band? I'm like, can you not fucking make it yourself, mate? Like. Yeah. Just can you
does it look like I'm at a loose end
at what's going on here? And just sort of a few things like that. So we didn't.
Yeah. There were some sort of let's say sort of lack of people skills, but
what you gonna do? But you're still there, which is it's a great thing. And I tell you what, when you guys asked me to join the group,
that was a good move, man.
I tell you what, man, I'm so honored, and I still am. When you asked me, I actually started crying. I was so happy, right? And it just really came at a point in my life where I really needed that one. Wow. I needed that win, and it was just sort of like, it was great because I'd sort of gone through, as young sound engineers do, and all sound engineers do. You find a band and you work with them and you nurture them and you undercut yourself and you do 20-hour days and do silly things because these guys are going to make it, and then you spend a year with them, 2 years with them, and then either they stop going or the money runs out, or they get to the next level and then they get a new manager and then everything changes and then you're back with nothing. So my sort of 4th or 5th round of this sort of dance had sort of just ended quite abruptly. And yeah, to me it was a great win, and I'm still super happy to be part of the team. And,
well, I'm glad.
Very honoured,
Oh no, it's great. I mean, we've all been through that thing of you invest your time and your energy and your love into something, and then like you say, new manager comes along, record company, whatever it is, and everything goes to custard, and you think, oh well, thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, music, because it's you really give of yourself. You can't. It's hard to make that detachment, I think. I know some musicians that are quite good at sort of not getting too attached in that emotional way, but then...
Well, I think they've probably been through this dance too many
exactly.
times.
And unfortunately that's why you do get a lot of people that, they get a bit bitter and a bit jaded. I feel very lucky that I've not got to that point, because I've managed to keep in good company. I've been burned in the past, of course. I've been shafted, but I'm not bitter about things. I still wake up in the morning thinking, great, I can't wait to get on with my musical day and see what's going to happen. I still enjoy it. I still love it. I'm still
that's the most
keen
important
for it,
thing.
And having someone like yourself, on board is great, because, it's invaluable to have, a great engineer on your team that's just going to be there for you, and I always recommend to any band, that's the next thing you need to get in your setup. Get your sound engineer that's going to stay with you and be part of your team.
I cannot agree with you more, because it's such an essential part. You work. Say, for instance, you go and you record an album. You get this producer, and he's got all these ideas, and at the end of the day, you've got a record out. It sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. Then you want to go on the road and you want to tour this. Okay. The 9 times out of 10, probably 99 out of 100, this producer isn't going to go with you, because he did his job and now he's done, and he's on to the next job and on to the next job. He's a studio guy. He does his thing, right? But now you're going to go on a 2-month tour, let's say 2-month tour around Europe, right? And you get different venues, and you get, different desks, different venues, different mics, different people, and that is the biggest thing, right? If you've got someone on your side that knows your sound, knows what the songs are supposed to sound like,
exactly,
knows and it even comes down to knowing your band so well, because I can look at you when you're playing, and micro expressions on your face would tell me exactly how you're feeling and how your mood is. The same with all the other guys.
It's invaluable.
Like, I see Frank Tonto in the back there. He's just grooving away, and then I suddenly see him look up, and I'm like, right, this is where he is. And I can sort of, now that I've known you such a long time and know Frankie, I can kind of anticipate what it is that he's going to want.
Right.
And just sort of. And it's
great.
People think that not having that is going to save them money, but I think it's a false economy.
There's no point. You can rehearse, for weeks at a time and get this whole thing really sounding crisp and amazing and like that, and then you're going to leave it in the hands of a stranger, some house engineer that's never met you before, maybe
a new stranger every day.
Yeah. Maybe you're in another country and they can't even speak. You can't even communicate with them, and maybe they're like totally into sort of death metal, and you're kind of trying to do some very sensitive acoustic jazz or whatever it is. It's like, what? There's no sense in it, And having someone who's on your side, someone that gives a damn. I remember when we did that gig in Guildford, and Derek's monitor went down, and you had to carry. You got this big wedge, and you carried it over, and because they were on ears, so you got a wedge, you hooked it up, and it's like, no house engineer's going to do that. They're going to be like, sorry. The thing went down, okay, but you made the effort. And
we'll get it on the next gig.
But you made the effort because you care and you give a damn, and that's invaluable. That is, you have to have that. Yeah.
No, I can't agree with you more.
And also, like I said, about knowing the sound, knowing how it should sound, and knowing how the band want to communicate the music.
Yeah.
So
knowing the rhythm and the feel of it, knowing the And again, it's just knowing that the dynamic in the band and the chemistry and the, you know, because you guys know each other, you rehearse all the time. We see each other once a month, but still we see each other.
Yeah.
And we know each other. We've worked together for what's going on 11 years now.
I think we rehearsed last time about 6 years ago.
Well, you guys are all very busy, and you're all very accomplished musicians.
Yeah, you know when we rehearse. We rehearse on the day.
That's
in
right,
the sound check.
Yeah. Well, you know, at least it'll be fresh in the mind.
Yeah.
There's no way to
and
forget
then different on the gig anyway. So.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, it's something that I see a lot of the really top end sort of jazzers sometimes, you know, and you think, why didn't you bring an engineer? I've had situations where some bands would come in and it would be so specific, and I'm just there scratching my head. I'm like, why don't you employ somebody? But you've got 3 managers running around. Okay, maybe have 2 managers work just a little bit harder, and then get yourself a sound guy. Even just get a fucking roadie. You know, get somebody who can help set things up. I think it's a false economy not having somebody, because, like you said, you can rehearse for years, right, and have this operation so smooth, but then you get to a place and the sound just doesn't reflect the work that you've put in, and people are going to go away thinking,
exactly.
And that's kind of counterintuitive to what you want to be doing. You
Absolutely.
know, you want to be getting people like, oh my God, I'm going to come back. And I'm not saying that that's down to me or a sound engineer, but it helps.
Well, it's a massive part of it. It's a massive part of it. Because the band's on stage, you know, I have no idea how it sounds out front. So I have to trust someone.
Well, that's a good thing.
But, you know, you need to trust someone that it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And like I say, at least if I know you and I know that you care, then I feel good inside, like I know you're doing your best. Whereas if I encounter some in-house guy who's like, what? Yeah, it's fine, you know, whatever.
Who's on the phone all the time.
Yeah, and you just think, I don't feel good about this. And sometimes you can kind of get a sense on stage like, I don't think this is sounding good out front. And then after the gig, no, I couldn't hear the bass. Couldn't hear a thing. Yeah. And you think, oh, great.
Yeah. Well, I might as well just not have showed up.
Yeah. What was the point in that? Did he ride the solos? No, I couldn't hear when the sax did his solo. Oh, great. Okay.
See, this is another part where it's essential to know the music.
Yeah.
Right? Because then you can anticipate these things. You know, going back to some of these really intricate bands that I've had to deal with. You know, they do a 3-night run at Ronnie's. The first night is absolute chaos.
Yeah.
Because as much as I can concentrate, but if I've got 8 people on stage who all want attention at the same time, and they all want to be louder than the other, and then you got to also take into consideration solos and these sorts of things, and I'm just stood there, you know, at the end of it, my nerves are frayed, right? And then by day 3, I'm like, okay, well now I'm comfortable mixing the show. I've seen it now, and I mean, I can't. Not me specifically, but any sound engineer, any person can't be expected to know all of the music all of the time.
No.
You know, a band comes in, doesn't matter who you are, if you're the most famous instrumentalist in the world, maybe I haven't heard your stuff. Maybe I'm not into jazz. Maybe I'm a death metaler, you know, and on my free time I listen to guys like, you know, In Flames or The Haunted or whatever, right? So this is my job. Yes, I love what I'm doing, but I can't always be expected to know everybody's music.
Yeah.
When there's a solo, when there's a break, when there's a.
But at least if you've got your eyes and ears open and you're trying, you know. Yeah, exactly. Like you say, you get these engineers who, you know, put the faders up and then they're on their phone like, that's it, I've done my job. No. You know. Yeah,
leaving it at 0.
Yeah.
I think the only one I've ever seen do that, but who's good enough in the setup stages is, I forget his name, but he is Wynton Marsalis's engineer, and he does that. He pushes all the faders to 0. then he gains it up, but he gains it up just right. You know, so he doesn't really have to touch it. And he's very fortunate as well, because he's got guys like Wynton Marsalis in the band where they can handle their own dynamics.
Yeah, I was
you know,
going to say.
They've got a microphone and they'll step back and forward and they'll add everything. So he just sits there.
I saw them at the Jazz Cafe once, and they're self-balancing basically, like you say. You know, they're all quite far off mic. You know, they're much quieter than normal. Than a lot of gigs tend to be these days, which is something I don't get. Why everything has to be so, you know, blastingly loud if it's not meant to be. So they're self-balancing. You know, here just one overhead, one on the kick. That was it. You know, and so, but again, it takes that understanding that this is how we want to do it, and an engineer who's empathetic to that way, rather than going, no, this is how I always make up a drum kit. You know. And then just kind of ruining it basically. So you know, there is such a thing as having too many mics. on an instrument. I years and years ago, I think this is about maybe 2011, when I was full time at Ronnie's. There was Hiromi. You know Remy, right? Yeah.
My God, what a player! With Anthony Jackson on the bass and Steve Smith on the drums. Power trio.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, right. And the music was incredible. It was fantastic.
I've seen them.
But they had brought their own engineer, who was clearly, I think he was, from memory, I think he was a son or a cousin or he was someone of Steve Smith, right? And drums were fine, bass was fine. Obviously, Anthony just plays through the amp. But he had 7 microphones on the piano for Hiromi. Ooh. Okay. And
for trouble, isn't it?
There were so many phasing issues that we couldn't hear the piano at all. And then he'd gone on to blame me, and then he blamed the club, and then the sound system, and then this. I'm like, listen, mate, this is just basic sound engineering 101.
Just physics.
Okay, if you've got too many microphones on an instrument pointing at the same thing, you are going to get phase issues, and you can push that as loud as you want. It's just going to cancel each other more, because the more you bring it up, the more it cancels each other out. And so, I mean, Steve was playing. It was all this very tasty, very beautiful stuff. It wasn't like hard-hitting jazz fusion or anything. You know, it was very tasteful. Couldn't hear the piano in Ronnie Scott's, where you can hear the piano on its own quite well and quite clearly. So there is such a thing as putting too many microphones. But that was his thing. I always, in those situations, just step back. Sorry, man.
What can you do?
It's
your gig, mate. Okay.
Exactly. Unless they, cause PA solos to make people's ears bleed, then I won't step in. I've only had to do that once. Right. Where this guy was clearly not able to do his job properly. And it was just feedback for the and I mean not for a song, for like 10 minutes. And I was just like, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to take over. You're clearly. I don't know what it is. I don't want to. But you need to step away from the desk, because you're really gonna. Your musicians aren't happy. The crowd aren't happy. No. I'm not happy. Nobody's happy. You're not happy, because how can you be happy with this? So let's pull back everything. Start from scratch here. So, but luckily that's the very few times that happens. So playing with Tony all the way through high school, playing in pubs. Then you did your 1 year at the college, and then from there, how did you go? Where did you go?
Just kind of kept on that trajectory, really. Just kind of the keyboard player in our band was the first one to get a call outside of our little unit, and like
bubble.
He was like, I've got a gig with this band, and you're like, he's got a gig, like he's going to get paid proper money. And we were all like, this is amazing. So of course we all went to see him play as well, And then and it was literally that thing of one day someone said, "Oh, I heard you play bass. Give me a call. I heard heard you're a friend of so and so, and you play bass, and we need a bass player for this."
Word of mouth.
Yeah, literally that, and then literally that was it. Just one gig, great, and then another gig, and then so on.
That's great, man. Yeah.
And it's very lucky. I've had a lot of good fortune on my side because I didn't plan it. I was never kind of like, I was not one of these people that knew from a young age like I really want to be a musician. Didn't really have that plan, but I was very lucky to be in good company, like knowing Tony, Frank Tonto, Andy Gangadine, who were really good friends of mine from a young age. That we came up together, and as they got work, they kind of involved me, and it just kind of naturally, organically happened.
Yeah.
Living in London helps.
Absolutely. It's kind of one of the music capitals of the world, isn't it?
And I just didn't really realise that. I'm not saying I took it for granted, but I just was very lucky to be in a certain place at a certain time. Just
So you grew up in was it
where I live?
Not Kilburn.
Bloomsbury. I went to school in Kilburn.
Yeah, Kilburn. That's where Tony and Marcus and them live. Not Kilburn.
They live in Cricklewood.
Cricklewood. Yeah. Apologies.
No, that's
close.
That's all right. Yeah, it's close. It's close. I went to school in Kilburn then, but I've always lived in central London, in Bloomsbury. Everyone thinks it's really posh because I've got a WC1 postcode, but it's not that posh. But
I've been to your house.
But it's nice. But yeah, just very lucky, really.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
Yeah. So you've known Frankie Tonto as well for a while.
Probably maybe 2 years after knowing Tony. So
right.
That's well over 30 years as well.
And I suppose there was quite a lot of, getting involved with music because his old man, was it, what's the band that his old man started?
Ossie Bisa,
yeah. I remember I did a gig for them in Ronnie's as well.
Right.
Maybe a year before his dad passed.
Right.
And it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah.
It's good to to have these people around you, and it's kind of, I suppose, it helps with motivation as well. It's kind of like having a sparring partner or a gym partner or a running mate.
I think, as you said about this thing of being in good company, but when I met Frank, he'd already toured the world at the age of 17 with his dad's band, and so for us it was kind of like this, wow, he's really out there doing it, and he's always been a great player, and like I said, there are other people that I knew Mark Mondesi from a very young age as well. A lot of really good musicians that have gone on to become household names, and just being in that kind of company has.
Take two.
Where were we?
Yeah. So just get the clapper.
What were we saying?
We were talking about being around the right company and getting.
Just really lucky, like I said, to be in that kind of company without really realizing it, and before those people became the people that we know them to be now, because we were all coming up together,
Yeah. It's just that
I knew Mark Mondesi when he didn't even have a drum kit,
Well,
like,
right.
And
Mark before Mark.
Yeah. And then he goes on to become this internationally acclaimed,
Yeah. And he's such a nice guy.
Oh,
he's so nice and down to earth.
Yeah.
That is one thing though that I've noticed, that the most talented people and the most successful people in the business seem to all be very down to earth, modest, genuine people. There's no arrogance. There's no. Obviously, there are the exceptions, which we won't name. We all know them and know who they are. And then but the majority of them. I remember the only jazzer that I actually knew of or knew about was Pee Wee Ellis, right? And the first time I did the gig for Pee Wee Ellis, beforehand I was like, kind of nervous. I was still very green. This is a while ago. Again, I think it was about 2011. So I come in nice and early, and I set up one of these SM7s for him, and I like make it really nice, and I almost put flowers on the stage. I just had it like it was just so.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he looks like, I don't know this thing. You got a 58? I'm like, all right, I'll put it up to 58. He's like, well, yeah, you know what you're doing. Sound check's over. And that was it. I'm like, okay.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
That's what you
just
want.
Like, okay, it sounds like a saxophone. Thank you very much. And they're so humble and down to earth because I suppose they got nothing to prove. The music does the talking for them.
The best people, like I say, have got nothing to prove. Hence, there's no need for any kind of attitude or anything like that. Of course, there are egos involved. Everyone has an ego, and musicians tend to have perhaps more egos than most because they're performing and they're kind of putting themselves out there, and so there are egos, but there's a difference between an ego and an attitude. And I've, like you, I've met some of the greats, and the true greats are very, very humble and just kind of like really cool, and that's a really important sort of lesson to learn. And like I say, with the kind of people that I know, like I say, what's another really important factor is to know these people as friends as well. Like I
have an outside of the music.
So I can I have a social interaction with them as well, which only helps to sort of strengthen that musical relationship as well.
Absolutely, so, chemistry, man. It's like a relationship.
Exactly.
It's you can, and I've found that personally as well. You can play with somebody who's technically quite good, and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. You can be on the same level. He can be better than you. You can be better than him, he or she. Them, they, their. But if there's not that chemistry there, it's just never going to work.
Absolutely.
And I think you'll find as well the people that there's not that musical chemistry, you probably don't have much in common in the real world either. But as soon as there's just that feeling, you're like, I've always known this person.
Yeah. I've done gigs with people that I've not met before, or even with people I sort of know a bit, and it's been painful, because it's just like we're not on the same sort of level, like not sort of technically or ability wise, but just in sort of musically, just sort of on that sort of musical level of understanding, and just kind of just not there at all.
Yeah.
And then I've had the opposite, where I've met someone and it's just clicked straight away. It's like, I think the first time I played with Ian Matthews, the drummer, and we had one of those gigs. We sort of shook hands, and then literally it was counted because we got there a bit late. So it was like shook hands. Hello, I'm Nick. And he's clicked, and we played, and it's like straight away like, oh, this feels good, And he was thinking the same thing, like, oh yeah, there's something here,
Right.
And you can't predict that. You can't sort of prescribe that. It just happens or doesn't.
Yeah, and you can't buy that.
Yeah,
it just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And
again, he's a lovely guy as well, So.
Well, that's probably why, because although on the other hand, I know some people who, when you sometimes just think, it's a really nice person, but there's no reason for us not to be friends or not to, hang out. But you never really get there because it's just sort of like, it's kind of almost like work, and it's almost like it's not quite there. So there's that as well. But the majority of the time, if you can get that chemistry with somebody straight away, then the playing is just going to be.
It's the most important thing, really. You can't make good music without good people.
Yep.
And that's crucial. Another sort of. It reminds me of a quote that Victor Wooten said as well, because his mum said to him, "What does the world need with another bass player?" But she said, "What you need is good people in this world." And so he kind of made that. He kind of took that on board and thought, yes, okay. In order of priorities, yes, I want to be a good bass player, but I also want to be a good human being.
I think that's more important than anything else.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's one of those memes that goes around, and I've shared the hell out of that, over the years. It's like, the world doesn't need any more doctors and lawyers and scientists and these and those and these and those, but what the world really does need is healers and carers.
Absolutely.
And, artists and people who help communication, who help, people feel good.
Yeah.
These sorts of things.
But it's
especially
within everyone.
in this time, I think we need it more than ever.
And it's within everyone. If everyone just did a little bit of that, and sort of reached out to their nearest next person, and that those people reached out to their next, then we'd all be sort of looking after each other a bit better, and just.
That's it.
And it's not big stuff.
It's not. It's really not.
It's like, you see someone's sort of struggling down the road with a couple of heavy shopping bags. You think, well, do you need a hand? I'm going this way. It doesn't take much effort.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, and the rewards. I think people overlook. Not that you're in it to get something back, but even just the personal fulfillment of a kind act it's so much, it's like 10 times as positively reinforcing than anything else that you can do, or doing something for someone on the other side of the world, or a kind word or something that really goes such a long way, because you don't know, this guy might have been on his way to the bridge to jump, and you say something nice and that really changes their life. You hear these stories all the time.
And it takes no effort at all.
No, it doesn't. We should all do like old Michael Jackson said, I'm starting with the man in the mirror.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's the small things that you do. There was this movie that I really enjoyed, and it's always stuck with me, and I try and implement that in my life. It's pay it forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
When I, and if somebody says to me, "Oh, thank you very much. What can I do to repay you?" I'm like, pay it forward. Do something nice for somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a great sentiment. I do like that.
Yeah, because basically I'm too busy to spend time with you. I've done my deed. Okay, go away now. Go and bother somebody else.
You still here?
I thought I helped you with your shopping yesterday. Why are you still here? Yeah, no.
Absolutely.
So, tell me, or if you can, you're gonna start a podcast.
I was kind of thinking. I got inspired by you.
Oh.
Because I saw yours and I thought, yeah.
If he can do it, I can do it.
Didn't mean it like that at all. But I just thought, it looks, you're doing it. It's doable, I guess because I know you and I think, right, so it's attainable then, And
again, if he can do it.
I didn't say it. But yeah, I've been interested in a while of I was working with a friend of mine, Steve Lewinson, who's a bass player as well, and we were talking about, this is a while back, we were talking about producing some kind of, I think we were talking along the lines of a book at that point. This is old technology, but then doing it in the podcast form would be probably much better. And it's to do with, broadly speaking, kind of a music, obviously music related, to do with teaching, but in a much broader sense, more holistic sense, rather than sort of saying, put your finger here, do this. This is something that can apply to musicians in general, and talking about things like how to practice, what to practice, when to practice, when not to practice, performance anxiety, how to learn, how to memorize things, just lots of stuff that isn't addressed in formal music education, because as we were saying earlier,
I mean, I'd listen to that. That sounds. I think what you just touched on as well, when not to practice, is something that I don't think people ever get told.
No.
Because we've got an expression in Afrikaans, which will translate as like, don't make the porridge too thick.
Can you say it in Afrikaans?
Moenie die pap te dik aanmaak nie.
Okay.
Don't make the porridge too thick. Don't put too much, because pap for us isn't porridge. It's similar to polenta.
Right.
So it's made with corn flour.
Uh-huh.
Right. and obviously the more corn flour you put in there, and as it cooks, it becomes this sort of clay putty, and it can, if you put too much into something, it's going to spoil.
Yeah.
And we kind of use it in terms of when you've got a new friend, or when you were in school and you had a new friend, you want to spend all the time that you can with this new friend, as much as you can, and then after 3 months you're like, oh fucking hell, I need a break now.
Yeah.
Right? That's sort of that thing. Or again, with anything you do, putting too much time or all of your time in there, and then you get fed up with it, and then you might even start hating it, or you might even start not wanting to do that anymore. And therein lies the magic of variety. Doing different things. And I was listening to Joe Rogan's podcast again the other day, and he keeps talking about this samurai, and that to me was a sort of a big sort of inspiration. I've always been somebody who likes to do different things, right? I don't want to be a master of one thing, although I do like to master things. But I feel that in my life there are so many things that I like that I want to be good at. Right. So I section some time off. This time is this time is this time is this. So I sort of get more of a rounded thing. And the thing about the samurai was or what Joe Rogan had said is, there's this book, I can't remember exactly the samurai's name, a 15th century samurai, right? And he was like one of the badass, the best. Okay, he was an assassin extraordinaire, but he was also a painter. He was also a poet. He was also, he worked the land. He said you have to excel, or not excel, but you have to be able to do other things to bring that to your art, to your main craft. That just fills in everything else, and you have to do everything with the same intensity as your primary goal.
Right.
So if you go and make a cup of tea, make the fucking cup of tea. Make the hell out of that cup of tea. I mean, that's one of the things about the Japanese culture that is incredible. It's like even, well, I mean, definitely back in the day, I certainly don't know Japanese culture now. I'm, talking about back in the day, when even pouring a cup of tea, like you have to do it as perfectly as you can.
Oh yeah.
Sweeping the floor. Every action you do has to be just so. You have to be, or you have to strive to be perfect in every action that you do. And if you do everything with the same intensity, then your main thing is just going to blossom and become.
Don't get me started on Japan, because I love that place, and they got so much right. Every time I've been, it's like you just think, and then I come back here and I think, oh God, why does it have to be this way? And it doesn't, because it can be done. In every aspect of life, it seems they've just got so much sussed out, and you just think, that's the way to do it.
Right. No, I learned quite a lot. You remember I think there was a series called Shogun. Right. I read the book.
Right. James Clavell.
It's a 1,200 page book. It was a bit of a one to get through. It's and I like to take little bits from here and there and apply it to my life, or assimilate it into my me. Where there was one, do you know Paulo Coelho?
Yes.
Right. In his book The Zahir.
I haven't read
that. Right. There's this one character in this book that just immediately just struck a chord, and his sort of way of being and his outlook on life. His name is Mikhail or something, and the story goes. He went one day, because the story is like the author or the protagonist, he goes on a journey looking for his wife, and as he's always like a step behind, and meets the people that she met, and that pushed her on the new part of her journey, because she basically just up and left one day.
Right.
She was out looking for herself, and she met this guy Mikhail, and he started this thing where he went to a coffee shop one day and he just stood up, and everybody's like, "What's going on?" This, and he's like, "Hi everybody, my name's Mikhail. I come from here. I do this, blah blah blah." Just talking, and then it progressed into this whole thing of, he had a night where people would come, random people would just show up, and they would stand up and they would just tell something about themselves to a crowd of strangers, and having that openness, and the confidence to share yourself and put yourself out there, and to have the confidence to walk up to a stranger and say, "You know what, you've got beautiful eyes." Just that, man or a woman, doesn't matter. It's not. There's nothing else involved in just admiring somebody or something of someone that they do good, and that's that little change that you can make to somebody. Right. Just like, "You've got a beautiful smile," or "You're looking good today," or even just like, you're looking positive today, or something like that, and that. It makes a difference to somebody's life. And I always try and assimilate these sort of little things to, it's nice to be nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no reason to be.
And I think it's really good, like you say, about sort of taking on different things, because it's very easy to become sort of a bit sort of tunnel vision about, say, if you're trying to be a musician, about, practicing all day and just becoming single-minded, which is kind of cool, possibly arguably necessary to be, that focused about it, but also it is important to take on other aspects of life and look at the big picture as well, and think about, maybe have other hobbies and things like that, so you can be more of a complete person, like you say. I think that's important, because it's, otherwise you can just become this sort of tunnel vision type of thing, which is not entirely healthy.
Have you ever been part of a conversation when there's, like, for instance, I'll just say that, the Ronnie Scott's Jazz Orchestra, right? Fantastic players, a lot of them, right? But a lot of them are very, very geeky and single-minded, and being part of a conversation where time after time after time, it's like all they talk about is like, "Oh, this performance, this record, the way this guy played this," and it's all. I love music, right? I love it, but there's only so much that you can talk about it, and somebody's playing, and then this record, and then that record, and then this, before you become boring.
So tune out.
I just
I think it's. I went through a period where I was kind of like really intensely sort of focused and sort of trying. And arguably, I think you need to go through that, and have at least a period where you are very sort of just kind of focused on this kind of thing, on whatever goal it is.
Well, you're working towards perfection, aren't you?
Yeah, and I'm far from it, obviously, but, it's, and you're never going to get there either. So, but I also think it's important to have other aspects.
You should have other interests.
Yeah, just have a bit of a balance. I think that's all it is.
Variety, spice of life.
Yeah, and I love the way you're doing this building, and you're doing your cooking, and you're doing your, so many aspects to being you, which is great. And you talk about, okay, you're not master of any one thing, but that's cool. I know I'm not a master of playing bass, but I'm fine with that. But hopefully I can have other aspects to my life that I can enjoy, and that people will maybe get something out of that other thing that I can do.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. I think it just brings more fulfillment to yourself as well, and without being selfish. But this life is about you, right? You're only living your life. There's no way of you living somebody else's life.
Yeah, exactly.
But giving is as good as receiving. And I don't know. I don't think people really realize that. So, what have you been getting up to during these months?
Yes, well, obviously lockdown has dominated everyone's lives. I've done one gig
Yes,
since March.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was great fun.
Yeah, my God, that was
really great fun. Didn't make a difference that there wasn't an audience. I felt that we just kind of got on with it.
Man, you guys were vibing so much on stage. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
I'll post a link to that gig. It's still on YouTube, I think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe there was a bit of frustration being vented. I don't know, but everyone just had a great time.
It was a blast.
So yeah, that was my one gig. I've been doing some online teaching with the school I mentioned, World Heartbeat Music Academy.
Is that all online?
That's online.
Mm-hmm.
I was previously doing one afternoon a week at the school.
Right.
And then it just moved online. It's like 4 hours of my afternoon, which has been good. It's been really good. I do actually really enjoy that. As I said, the kids are really responsive. It's a great learning environment. So I actually get a lot out of that. I enjoy it a lot.
Teaching it's just, there's nothing like it. I really enjoy it. I think maybe because both my parents are teachers.
Okay.
I've kind of grown up in that sort of thing.
Right.
But I've always enjoyed teaching.
Oh yeah.
So much.
Yeah. And I think for me I really enjoy it, but I try to hold on to that thing what we were talking about earlier, like not to instruct, not to sort of destruct or anything, but just kind of try to impart knowledge and say,
be there in a supporting role.
Yeah, like try this. You could do this. You don't have to do this. Maybe this doesn't work for you. This works for me. But have a go at this. And I try to do it more like that. And it's challenging and more interesting to do it like that. And it seems to work because I get really good feedback from the kids and from their parents.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man.
And I think it's a lot to do with the whole sort of approach that the school as a whole has. So it really works well, and I do get a lot out of it. So I've been doing that, and then I've been doing some other sort of online music projects. I've got a friend of mine in Japan who I've been working with for quite a few years now, and we've always collaborated on stuff, and that was online anyway. Yeah. Even though he has been here and we've collaborated here, and I've collaborated with him over there. But we've been doing.
Who is this?
His name's he goes under the name of M Swift. Okay. And when he's been here, we've worked on sort of album projects before, and this was actually doing some. He had a project for NHK, which is like the BBC of Japan. Okay. So this was kind of like, it wasn't an artist thing; it was just kind of library music that he was working on. But even so, I did some bass stuff for him. I organised some vocal sessions for him, and just kind of looked after the sort of UK side of that. And so we've been doing that whole sort of file exchange thing. I've been doing a few sort of online sessions, like I guess everyone else has. Yeah.
Are any of those online?
I did one for Bill Sharp recently. Bill Sharp from Shack Attack, and I guess he's working on an album. So
okay, great.
I don't think it's out
yet.
Fantastic. I mean, yeah, I think some. I don't know if anything's online. It's just kind of sessions, and then you send the file, and like I don't know what you're going to do with it.
And then it's out there.
Yeah. So yeah,
Did my part.
Just keeping busy with various things.
Yeah. Have you been going to the studio much, doing stuff there?
No.
Are you doing any writing at the moment?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Still with M Swift.
Not so much with him. Well, there's that's sort of ongoing. There's a couple of things there. There's another singer I'm working with over here, a singer called Natasha Watts, who's very, very fine singer, a good friend, and we've just been working again online, just sort of exchanging ideas back and forth.
I think I've heard of her.
She's good. She's really good. She's really cool. A very hard worker and very motivated, and I really like being around her because she's very switched on, and we have a good kind of chemistry. Again, that thing we were talking about just works. So just kind of keeping busy really.
That's it, man.
Trying to get a sort of live stream idea off the ground at the moment as well. So
you should talk to Shahan Satis.
Yes,
he's just set up a thing.
Shahan, right? Yes. Oh, really?
Yeah. He's got all the equipment and all the stuff, and he provides the service, and he's got like web hosting and everything sort of sorted out, and it's a mobile thing.
Right.
So he comes to you wherever you want to do your thing.
Okay.
So give him a bell. Get in contact with him. See you know, maybe you guys can even collaborate.
Yeah.
And then hopefully you'll get your podcast started soon.
Yeah.
It sounds like a great idea, man. I really would listen to it for
right.
sure.
Yeah, it's in a way it's kind of like, you know, I've kind of tried to instigate lots of things because, you know, I'm not going to sit around waiting for things to happen again, because I think this is very much a long haul kind of thing. This is not going away anytime soon. So I'm trying to sort of diversify within music mainly and just kind of look at different things. And so I've kind of taken on a lot, actually. There's a lot going on.
Great, man.
Because I know not all of it's going to work, but...
I'm just planting seeds, man.
Yeah,
some of them grow and some of them don't.
Exactly, that's exactly what I'm doing.
You know, if you put enough love into it, then, you know, and, you know, sometimes you can try really hard with something and then it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
you know, it's
but whilst I have the time, you know, I'm sort of allocating my time and sort of, just trying to get a few things off the ground, man. You know,
great, man.
See what happens.
See what happens. That's great.
Because we don't know.
No, we don't. Well, let's hope it's all gonna. I mean, at least we've got the freedom now. You're here, and we've got. We've got the freedom to travel around, which is great.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at other places, they're in complete lockdown.
Yeah.
And it's completely bonkers. So we're still quite fortunate that we're in this stage where we are seems to be emerging, even though the information that we're getting is not coherent at all.
Yeah. That's the problem.
But we still have some freedoms ourselves of movement, of meeting. You know, we can do this. We can meet with other people. We can play gigs. Not to crowds, but we can still do something with it. So we're, you know, I think it could have been worse. I'm just trying to be positive here. You know,
it could always be worse.
I will be sharing all the links that you want me to share.
Okay.
On this, and then people can see what you're up to.
Okay.
And maybe we can post like M Swift or with the vocalist that you're working with and these sorts of things. And
cool, man.
Hopefully, when you get a podcast, let me know. We'll advertise that.
Great, man. Thank you.
The two people that are going to watch this might start watching yours as well.
Hi, Mum.
Not because of you, because you know, it's a slow burner. It's you know, but I don't really care, to be honest. I'm having a good time up here.
Yeah.
I'm getting to know the people that I've known for a long time better because I didn't know any of these things about you.
Yeah.
And we've known each other for 10 years. You know?
It's terrible, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's just like
just how it is.
when are you going to have this conversation with somebody?
Yeah, exactly.
Unless it's 3 o'clock in the morning and we've all had a drink and you're sat at somebody's couch and then you know these, you know, back in the day, or when are you going to have this conversation? Because you're at the pub with other people, these things will never come to light. And I've heard so many people say that, you know, I haven't thought about this in 20 years, or I haven't thought about this thing, or oh yeah, that's how this started. And, you know, it's a nice little sort of maybe a trip down memory lane, and maybe a little. You know, just a little something.
No, it's cool, man. This is good. And I've learned stuff about you, which has been very cool as well. You know, and just kind of having these little interactions. A lot of fun.
Great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, really. Thank you. Thank you.
Until next time. Well, there you have it. I hope you've enjoyed that as much as I have. I will be sharing Nick's contacts and social media in the description, as will I do mine as always. I have a Patreon page if you want to support the podcast. It's patreon.com/HeySoundGuy. You can support me there. As always, like, share, subscribe, keep it sound.